I'll be strong in your presence. That's easy, isn't it? But to be strong in the presence of God, how many of us feel that we have to hide or protect ourselves from making our hearts available to God? Really open to God. How many of us feel that somewhere along life, as today I will focus on shame, healing, freedom from the binding shame, and man, am I glad to be able to finally talk about it because I've been having to live it all week. I don't like living in past shame, current shame, or even the thought about future shame. See, shame is woven into our fabric so deeply that most of us have never lived a complete minute in the last 20 or 30 years free from shame. Completely free from it. It's so easy to drag it with us because it's been woven into us so deeply that we don't even like to go near the subject or talk about it. Shame is huge. It's the thing that destroys the very fabric of community. It's the thing that destroys our very best intentions. Shame. Shame. I came across a wonderful writing by Robert Caldwell under the title of Understanding How Shame Binds Us and How to Begin to Free Ourselves from It. And he defines shame as the inner experience of being not wanted. The inner experience of being not wanted. And where does that come from? It is a feeling of worthless, rejected, and worse, feeling cast out. Guilt is believing that one has done something bad. Anybody have a guilty feeling this last week? 10:30 at night, freezer, ice cream, guilt. True. We've had those little guilt reminders along the way, perhaps. But guilt is believing that one has done something bad. And shame is believing, and hear this, that one is bad. Big difference. Shame is believing that one is not loved because he or she is not lovable. Now, if you ask yourself, and you're totally, completely honest with yourself, when you look at the first 10 or 12 years of your life, did your parents do everything to validate in you that you were absolutely lovable? Everything they could in their power to prove to you on a daily basis that you were absolutely lovable. Not once in a while, not occasionally, but from the moment that you arrived into this world, were your parents' commitment to demonstrate to you everything in their power to show you that you belonged in that community of family? Did they validate you? Did they praise you? Did they say to you, you are a strong presence in this world. We are so glad and welcomed and happy that you are here. And they wove it into the fabric of your very cell of your being on a daily basis. Not occasionally. Not 3 times. Daily. Or instead, did you hear a lot of, why didn't you do better at school? Why didn't you take the trash out? Why didn't you do the recycling? Why did you only get 3 A's? Why didn't you do better? Why are you eating so much? Why are you not eating? Shame. Almost every time we hear a question beginning with why, it generally leads up to a shaming statement. How many times along the way have we been invalidated and shown in some way that it has led us to believe that we are not lovable today as an adult? How many of us are still carrying that childhood stuff right up to the very moment here, and we still walk away believing that we're not lovable? And so we do everything we can to try to fit into a society that is hard to fit into to begin with, to show that we're lovable. And our shame is what enables us, what encourages us, what empowers us, what makes us think that if we do anything, that we'll do anything possible to fit in. Look at the most prominent relationships that you've had in your life. How many things have you done in your life in that prominent relationship to fit in? hoping that they won't cast you out, hoping that you won't be set aside or set free to go on about your way as a loner, as separate. You see, because as human beings, we want to belong. We want to be a part of a clan. It hasn't changed in the last 50,000 years of our development as a human race. We want to feel like we fit in, that we belong. And how can we feel like we fit in and belong if we're not lovable? How can we feel like we can fit in and belong if we feel we've done things in our life that if we ever share that with another person, they will validate for us that we're not lovable? Because we're really good at validating inside of us now, since we were validated as a child that we weren't lovable. We're really good at doing it inside of us now, saying we're not lovable because we've done this or we've done that or we've done that. You know what I found? And I've worked with some of the most greatest criminals around. When you work with people that have killed 18 people, that's a lot of shame. And what I know is that if you look at all the things we've ever done in our life, that we've ever done that we believe we should be shamed, that we've shamed ourselves for, and we added it all up, it's usually a very small amount of time. I don't care if it comes out to a month. That's 24 hours a day, 7 days a week for a month. Maybe we have a month worth of shame. Maybe. But do you know how dominant that thing is in our life? How dominant? And why is shame such a huge factor in our life and so important that we heal it? Is because you know you can never have true intimacy with anyone until you have healed your shame. Until you have led someone, that's why the Catholics have it right. You've heard me say this a couple of times before with confession. Someone that has heard your greatest shame, someone in your life. And until you share that and trust another human being enough, and that's got to be a trustworthy person, to share that inner shame, you can never have true intimacy. And if you question this, it's only because you haven't researched it, you haven't spent any time meditating, praying, reading about it. To have true intimacy, you've got to heal your shame. Otherwise, we can never feel really connected to another human being. And then we can never feel like we belong. And if we never feel like we can belong, then we never feel like we're lovable because we don't belong to anything. So we keep the cycle going that we validate that we're not lovable. How many times this week did you do something or think some way that you weren't lovable? And we usually start with our body. I fought my body my whole life. You know why I had to fight it? Because I was so tall and so thin. So the only time that I felt comfortable was on a basketball court. But otherwise, you have no idea how many times I came home wishing I was 6 inches shorter. Because I didn't fit in. And you can't do anything about it. And then I had a name, Jones. It doesn't take a whole big poet to figure out Jones and Bones rhyme. And so I had two things that I was continuously teased about in school: Jonesy, Bonesy, all those little things, so skinny, all those sort of things. I could go on with it. I couldn't do a thing about it. When you're being shamed about something that you can't do anything about, man, is that hurtful. And then you know what? We learn to do that for ourselves. We learn to shame ourselves really well. True? I fight against those shameful thoughts every day. And how I shame myself is, with children, my house is never clean enough, my garage definitely is not straightened up. My belly's not perfect yet. I'm not a good enough husband, or dad, or wage earner. I'm getting older. I'm not spiritual enough. I'm not a good enough speaker. My memory is not as good as I'd like it to be. And I have to work all the time against these thoughts. I'd love to sit here and say, hey, they're all gone. They're all gone, they've disappeared. And that's why I just give thanks for due thought, for God, my relationship there. As I have no idea how to battle this.